The darkness of space beyond the Kuiper Belt held secrets that Captain Taman never expected to find. His ship, the Indomitable, had been traveling for 3 months on a routine survey mission when the sensors picked up something impossible. An energy signature that didn't match anything in the human database flickered on the screens like a ghost. Taman leaned forward in his command chair, studying the readings. His crew of 47 scientists and engineers had grown bored with the endless black of deep space. Now everyone was awake and alert, crowding around their stations with wide eyes. Distance to the anomaly? Taman asked. 12,000 kilometers in closing, replied the navigation officer. Whatever it is, it's big. Maybe 3 times the size of our ship. The captain gave the order to approach slowly. As they drew closer, the object resolved on their visual scanners. It was a ship, but not like anything humanity had ever built. The hull was covered in strange geometric patterns that seemed to shift in the light. Parts of it were torn open, exposing corridors and chambers to the vacuum of space. It's dead, Taman said quietly. Been dead for a long time. They established a safe orbit around the derelict. Dr. Hannah, the chief scientist, practically vibrated with excitement as she prepared the boarding team. She was young for such an important position, barely 30 years old, but her brilliant mind had earned her the role. This changes everything, Hannah said to Taman as they suited up. We're not alone. We've never been alone. A boarding party of 6 moved through the airlock and into the alien vessel. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness, revealing corridors that bent at wrong angles. The walls were made of a material that felt warm even through their gloves. Everything was sized for creatures taller and thinner than humans. Hannah's team spread out, scanning and recording everything. They found bones in one chamber, the skeletal remains of beings with too many joints in their limbs. In another room, he discovered banks of equipment that still hummed with faint power after thousands of years. But it was the weapons bay that stopped everyone cold. The chamber was massive, filled with devices that could only be weapons. Energy conduits ran along the walls like veins. Mounting brackets held cannons the size of cars. Hannah approached one carefully, her scanner working overtime to analyze the technology. This is a plasma accelerator, she breathed. It would superheat matter into a directed stream. The energy requirements are insane. She moved to another weapon. This one manipulates gravity somehow. It could crush a ship from the inside. Taman examined the weapons with a soldier's eye. They were impressive, certainly more advanced than anything Earth had created. But something bothered him about the scene. Now look at the hull damage. Where the ship was hit, they moved to the breach in the outer wall. The metal was torn inward, the edges smooth and melted in places. Hannah ran her scanners over the damage, frowning as the data came in. All these impact sites, she said slowly. They're not from energy weapons. The damage pattern is wrong. This looks like kinetic impacts. Really fast kinetic impacts. Taman pulled up the tactical analysis on his suit computer. The data was clear. The alien ship had been killed by simple mass moving at incredible speed. Metal projectiles, probably tungsten or depleted uranium, fired at a significant fraction of light speed. They had all this advanced technology, Taman said, and something killed them with bullets. The discovery sent shockwaves through Earth. Every scientist wanted access to the data. Every engineer wanted to study the alien technology. But it was Commander Dae-jun, a veteran of the Mars Independence War. Who saw the real story? He stood in the briefing room at Seoul Military Command, studying the holographic reconstruction of the alien weapons. Admirals and generals filled the seats around him, all talking at once about the implications. Quiet, Dae-jung said, and the room fell silent. He had that effect on people. 20 years of combat had given him an authority that went beyond rank. Everyone is excited about their fancy energy weapons, he continued, but they lost. Something out there killed them with kinetic weapons. The same principle we've been using for 300 years, a general objected. Surely their technology is superior. We should focus on reverse engineering their energy shields, their FTL communications. Da-young shook his head. Of course we should study it all. But don't ignore what the wreckage is telling us. Railguns work. They work so well, that something used them to destroy a ship with energy shields and plasma cannons. He pulled up Earth's current military inventory. Thousands of railgun platforms orbited Earth and Mars. Mining ships in the asteroid belt used magnetic accelerators to launch ore. Humanity had spent centuries perfecting the art of throwing things very, very fast. "We've been embarrassed by our technology," Daejung said. "Every science fiction story told us we should have laser beams and force fields by now. But we focused on what worked: chemical rockets, nuclear reactors, electromagnetic accelerators. Maybe that wasn't a mistake." Dr. Hannah presented her findings to the United Earth Council 3 weeks later. She had aged years in those weeks, sleeping maybe 4 hours a night as she worked to decode the alien systems. "The ship is approximately 4,300 years old," she explained. "The crew were oxygen breathers like us, but their biology was completely different. We found data cores, but they're encrypted in ways we don't understand. It could take decades to crack them." "What about their technology?" asked the council president. Hannah displayed a schematic. "They had technology we can barely comprehend. Teleportation devices that could move matter across space, power sources that generated energy from quantum fluctuations, communications systems that operated faster than light. Can we replicate any of it?" "Not yet," Hannah admitted. "We're like cavemen looking at a computer. We can see that it does something amazing, but we don't understand the principles behind it." That night, Taemin couldn't sleep. He stood in the observation deck of the Indomitable, watching the stars. His ship was heading back to Earth. His mind was still on that derelict vessel. His communications officer entered the deck quietly. "Sir, you should see this. Long-range sensors are picking up multiple energy signatures. Same type as the derelict, but these are active." Taemin's blood went cold. "How many?" 15 distinct signatures, sir. And they're heading toward the solar system." The news reached Earth 8 hours later. Commander Daejung was pulled from his sleep by an emergency call. By dawn, every military installation on Earth and Mars was on high alert. Admiral Young-soo, the supreme commander of Earth's combined fleet, called an emergency meeting. The holographic display showed the approaching signatures, still months away but coming closer. "First contact," someone whispered. Daeyun stared at the display, his mind racing through scenarios. Humanity had dreamed of meeting aliens for centuries. But now that the moment was here, all he could think about was that dead ship, floating in the dark with holes punched through its hull. "We have for months," Young-soo said. "For months to prepare for whatever is coming. If they're friendly, we'll welcome them. If they're not—" He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Daejung spoke up. "I recommend we accelerate the weapons modernization program. Every railgun platform should be upgraded. We need more satellites, more defense stations." "You think they're hostile?" an admiral asked. "I think we should be ready for anything," Daejung replied. "That derelict ship had weapons that would terrify us. Something destroyed it anyway. We need to be prepared for both possibilities." The council approved emergency military spending. Across the solar system, factories went into overdrive. Mining operations in the asteroid belt were converted to produce ammunition and weapons platforms. Earth's orbital defenses, designed to stop rogue asteroids and debris, were retrofitted with military-grade RALs. Dr. Hannah continued her work on the alien technology, racing against time to unlock its secrets, but progress was slow. The aliens thought differently than humans, used different mathematical principles, based their science on assumptions humanity hadn't discovered. Captain Taemin watched the approaching ships on his sensors, counting down the days. He wondered what they would look like. He wondered if they would be peaceful. Most of all, he wondered if humanity's simple railguns would be enough if the answer was no. The alien ships arrived on a Tuesday morning. They didn't sneak in or hide. They appeared at the edge of the solar system in a flash of blue light that every telescope on Earth and Mars caught simultaneously. 15 vessels, each one beautiful and terrifying, shimmering with energy that bent light around their hulls. Ambassador Ji Woo stood in the United Earth Council chambers. watching the live feed with hands clasped behind her back. She had prepared for this moment her entire career, studied every first contact protocol, practiced speeches in 12 languages. But now that it was happening, her mouth felt dry. "They're broadcasting," the communications officer said. "Standard radio frequencies. They want to talk." The translation software struggled at first, but the alien language was surprisingly mathematical. Within an hour, they had established basic communication. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Concordat, a union of 6 species that controlled hundreds of star systems. Their leader's face appeared on the screen. It was serpentine, covered in iridescent scales, with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. When it spoke, its voice was musical, almost hypnotic. "Greetings, humans of Earth. We are the Concordat. We maintain order in this region of the galaxy. Your world now falls under our protection and authority." Giwu felt her stomach drop. Not a greeting between equals, a claim of ownership. "We appreciate your contact," she said carefully. "Earth is interested in peaceful relations with all species. We hope we can establish mutual cooperation." The alien's eyes glittered with something that might have been amusement. "You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. All developing species join the Concordat. You will pay tribute of resources and technology. In return, we protect you from hostile forces." "And if we decline?" Gu asked, already knowing the answer. "Then you are hostile forces." The transmission ended. Jiwoo stood in silence, her diplomatic training warring with the anger building in her chest. They had traveled across light years to deliver an ultimatum, not an invitation. Admiral Young-soo watched the same transmission from his command center on the moon. He was old now, 73 years old, but his mind was still sharp. He had fought in 3 wars and knew the tone of a conqueror when he heard it. "Get me Commander Dae-young," he ordered. 20 minutes later, Dae-young arrived at the Lunar Command Center. Young-soo pulled up tactical displays of the alien fleet. "They're sitting at Jupiter's orbit," Young-soo said. "Not moving closer, not retreating, just waiting." "Testing us," Dae-jung said. "Seeing if we'll submit without a fight? Will we?" Dae-jung studied the alien ships. They were massive, each one easily 5 times the size of humanity's largest warship. Energy readings suggested shields and weapons far beyond Earth's capabilities. "That depends," he said slowly. "Do we want to live free or live on our knees?" Young-soo smiled grimly. "I hoped you'd say that. I'm giving you command of the Terran Defense Initiative. Every military asset in the solar system is yours to coordinate." Dae-jung accepted the responsibility without hesitation. He had spent the last 4 months preparing for this possibility. Now, he had to see if his preparations were enough. The next day, the Concordat sent a demonstration. One of their ships approached Jupiter, powering up weapons that glowed like miniature stars. A beam of superheated plasma lanced out, striking one of Jupiter's smaller moons. The entire moon exploded in a flash of light, vaporized in seconds. The message was clear: submit or be destroyed. Jiwoo watched the display of power with a sinking heart. She tried to reopen negotiations, offering trade agreements, cultural exchanges, anything to avoid conflict. But the Concordat representatives were dismissive, treating her like a child negotiating with adults. "Your weapons are primitive," one alien told her. "Your ships are slow. Your technology is laughable. You have nothing we want except your obedience." Meanwhile, Dae-jung met with his top scientists and engineers. Leading them was Huayin-woo, a brilliant weapons designer who looked more like a university student than a military contractor.
"Show me what you have," Dae-jung said.
Huayin-woo pulled up schematics of the upgraded railgun platforms. "We've made improvements. Increased barrel length, stronger magnetic fields, better cooling systems. Our top platforms can now fire tungsten projectiles at 15% light speed. What does that mean in practical terms? Each projectile hits with the force of a small nuclear weapon, just from kinetic energy, and we can fire thousands of them simultaneously." Dae-jung studied the numbers. "What about their shields? The energy barriers we've seen on their ships?" "That's the interesting part," Huayin-woo said, his eyes lighting up. I've analyzed the footage from their demonstration. Their shields are designed to deflect energy weapons, plasma, lasers, particle beams. They redirect electromagnetic radiation. But not solid matter? Oh, they'll stop solid matter too. But there's a limit. Shields work by creating an energy field. The more energy you pump into them, the stronger they get. But kinetic weapons don't use energy the same way. They use mass and velocity. Hit a shield with enough kinetic force, and it overloads. The math is actually pretty simple. Daejong felt hope stirring in his chest. How many shots would it take? Against their shields, based on our readings, maybe 3 or 4 direct hits from our heavy platforms. The first shot weakens the shield, the second cracks it, the third punches through, and we have how many platforms? Just over 10,000 in Earth orbit alone, another 3,000 around Mars. The asteroid belt has about 1,500. Mining ships we've converted to weapons platforms. Daejong did the math in his head. Even if each alien ship could destroy 100 platforms before being overwhelmed, the numbers favored humanity. But only if they could get the aliens. To commit to a fight in human-controlled space, Young-soo was already thinking along the same lines. They're cautious, he said when Daejong briefed him. They vaporized a moon to scare us, but they're keeping their fleet at a safe distance. They don't respect us, Daejong said. In their eyes, we're primitives with chemical rockets and metal bullets. They think they can intimidate us into surrender without risking their ships. How do we change that calculation? We make them angry. Make them commit. The plan was risky. Gi-woo would continue negotiations, pretending Earth was considering surrender while buying time. Meanwhile, every military asset in the solar system would reposition according to Daejong's master plan. Orbital platforms were moved from obvious defensive positions to seemingly random locations. Asteroid mining ships drifted slowly toward Earth, looking like civilian traffic. The human fleet, small and outdated compared to the Concordat, spread out across the inner solar system in what looked like panicked disarray. The Concordat gave Earth 30 days to surrender. Gu used every day, dragging out negotiations with bureaucratic delays and translation issues. The aliens grew impatient, their diplomatic tone shifting from condescending to openly hostile. On day 29, Gi-woo made her final broadcast. It was transmitted to every Concordat ship and beamed across the galaxy on every frequency humanity could access. The people of Earth have considered your offer, she said, standing tall in her formal diplomatic robes. We have consulted our governments, our scientists, our military leaders, and we have reached a unanimous decision. She paused, letting the tension build. No, we will not submit. Earth bows to no one. If you want our world, you'll have to take it. And we promise you, the cost will be higher than you can imagine. The Concordat's response came within the hour. All 15 ships began accelerating toward Earth energy weapons charging. Shields glowing bright enough to be seen with the naked eye. Daejong watched from the command center, a slight smile on his face. The aliens were coming in angry, confident, and completely unprepared for what humanity had built. All stations. This is command, he said calmly. Prepare to fire on my mark. Today we show the galaxy that humanity doesn't surrender. We fight. Admiral Young-soo stood beside him, watching the tactical display. The alien fleet was beautiful, their ships moving in perfect formation, their technology making them seem invincible. Think it'll work? Young-soo asked quietly. Young replied. They've been fighting the same way for thousands of years. Energy, weapons, shields, honor combat. They've never faced someone who fights dirty and doesn't care about looking primitive. The Concordat fleet crossed into Earth's defensive perimeter, shields bright and weapons ready. They expected fear, panic, maybe a few desperate shots from outdated missiles. They had no idea what was coming. Daejong watched the distance close. 10 million kilometers. 5 million. 1 million, now he said. And 10,000 railguns fired at once. The first salvo took 8 seconds to reach the Concordat fleet. 8 seconds, where tungsten rods the size of cars flew through space at speeds that turned them into weapons of mass destruction. The aliens never saw them coming. Lieutenant Sujin watched from the cockpit of her fighter as the universe turned white. She was 26 years old, the youngest squadron leader in the Earth Defense Force, and she had never seen anything like this. The alien shields lit up like dying stars as thousands of kinetic projectiles slammed into them. The energy barriers held for exactly 3 seconds before the math became too much. Physics didn't care about advanced technology. Force equals mass times acceleration, and humanity had thrown a lot of mass very, very fast. The first alien ship to die was on the fleet's left flank. Its shields collapsed under the kinetic bombardment, and 36 tungsten rods punched through the hull like it was paper. The ship didn't explode dramatically. It simply stopped being a ship and became expanding debris. Multiple kills. Someone shouted over the command channel. Confirmed destruction of enemy vessels 7, 12, and 15. Daejung stood in the command center, watching the tactical display with cold satisfaction. The aliens had expected a primitive species with crude weapons. They got a civilization that had spent 3 centuries perfecting the art of throwing rocks really, really hard. Second wave. Fire, he ordered calmly. Another 5,000 platforms released their payloads. The Concordat fleet tried to scatter, their ships breaking formation as they realized the danger. But Daejung had anticipated this. Every retreat vector had been calculated, every evasion pattern predicted. Tactical Officer Minho sat at his station. Surrounded by holographic displays showing probability clouds and trajectory predictions, he was a mathematical genius, recruited from Seoul University before he even finished his doctorate. His models had predicted the alien movements with 93% accuracy. "They're breaking toward Mars," Minho reported, just as predicted. "Secondary platforms will have optimal firing solutions in 40 seconds. Admiral Yang-Soo watched the battle unfold, feeling a mixture of pride and horror. They were winning, but the cost was high. 2 orbital platforms had been destroyed by alien return fire. A frigate had been vaporized trying to cover the civilian evacuation from the L5 station. "Casualty reports coming in," an officer said quietly. "Platform Delta 7 took a direct hit. 93 crew lost." Young-Soo closed his eyes briefly. 93 people who had woken up this morning thinking about their families, their friends, their plans for tomorrow. Now they were gone, scattered atoms in the void. But there was no time for grief. The battle continued. The Concordat fleet, now down to 12 ships, tried to regroup. Their commander, realizing conventional tactics weren't working, ordered something desperate. 3 ships turned directly toward Earth, weapons charging for a planet-killing strike. "They're going for a terror attack," Daejung said, his voice tight. "They can't win, so they'll try to make us pay." Sujin got the call on her fighter's priority channel. "Lieutenant, you're cleared for close assault. Stop those ships before they reach firing range." Her heart hammered in her chest. Close assault meant getting within visual range, close enough to see the enemy ships with naked eyes, close enough that their defensive weapons could turn her fighter into vapor. "Copy that. Command. Tiger Squadron, form on me. We're going hunting." She had 12 fighters under her command. Each one was barely bigger than a bus, armed with smaller railguns designed for precision strikes. Against ships the size of aircraft carriers, they should have been useless. But Sujin had studied the alien ships for months. She knew where they were weak. "Target their engine clusters," she ordered. "Hit them hard and fast, then break away before they can target us." The fighters accelerated to maximum burn, pulling G-forces that made breathing difficult even with pressure suits. The alien ships grew larger in their view screens. Massive and beautiful and terrifying, Sujin picked her target, a serpentine vessel that glowed with internal power. She could see the weapon ports opening along its hull, charging for the shot that would kill millions. All fighters, weapons free. Fire everything. 12 fighters unleashed their railguns simultaneously. The projectiles, much smaller than the orbital platform rounds, still traveled at incredible speed. They punched into the alien engine cluster in a shower of impacts that looked like fireworks. The ship shuddered. Its weapons charge faltered. And then, something critical failed deep in its core. The explosion was silent in space, but bright enough to hurt the eyes. Sujin yanked her fighter into a hard turn, barely escaping the expanding debris field. "One down," she shouted. Engaging second target. But the second alien ship had learned. Its defensive weapons tracked the fighters, releasing streams of plasma that turned space into a death zone. 2 fighters disappeared in flashes of light. Sujin felt tears sting her eyes, but kept flying. Her friends were dead, but she couldn't think about that now. The ship was still heading for Earth, and she was the only thing standing in its way. She did something crazy. Instead of attacking from a distance, she accelerated directly toward the alien vessel, flying straight into its defensive fire. Plasma bolts streaked past, her cockpit close enough that she could feel the heat through the shields at the last possible second. She fired her entire payload directly into the ship's command section and yanked her fighter into a spin that nearly tore it apart. The alien ship's bridge exploded. Without guidance, the vessel went dead. Drifting harmlessly away from Earth, on the command center, Minho tracked the 3rd suicide ship. It was the fastest of the Concordat vessels, and it was going to reach firing range before anyone could stop it. Its estimated time to Earth orbit, 90 seconds, he reported, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. Daeyoung stared at the tactical display, mind racing through options. They had platforms in position, but not enough time to get a firing solution. The fighters were too far away. The frigates couldn't intercept in time, and then Dr. Bora, working in the emergency medical station on Mars, did something unexpected. She had been monitoring the battle while treating wounded, her scientific mind analyzing the alien movements. She grabbed a communication console. "Command. This is Dr. Bora on Mars. The asteroid mining ship Hercules is in position to intercept the 3rd target. If we accelerate to full burn and use the ship as a kinetic weapon, do it," Daeyoung said immediately. "All crew, evacuate immediately." The Hercules was a massive mining vessel designed to move asteroids. Its crew of 37 had 90 seconds to reach the escape pods. They made it in 75, the empty ship. All 50,000 tons of metal and machinery accelerated directly into the path of the alien vessel. The Concordat ship tried to evade, but mining ships were built for raw power, not finesse. They collided at a combined speed of over 50,000 kilometers per hour. Both ships ceased to exist. The Concordat fleet, now down to 9 ships, and watching 3 of their vessels destroyed in as many minutes, finally understood what they were facing. These weren't primitives. These were warriors who would sacrifice anything to protect their home. Their commander broadcast a surrender signal. Daeyoung almost couldn't believe it. "Confirm that signal." "Confirmed, sir." "They're requesting ceasefire and asking to negotiate terms." The battle had lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the tactical report was stark. 41 Concordat ships destroyed, 23 captured or disabled. 9 escaped to faster-than-light speeds with critical damage. Human losses were equally brutal. 237 orbital platforms destroyed. For frigates vaporized. 18 fighters lost. Total casualties, 1,847 dead. Sujin landed her fighter on the moon base, hands shaking so badly she could barely undo her straps. She had survived. 10 members of her squadron hadn't. Admiral Young-soo walked through the command center, stopping at each station to thank the crew personally. They had won a victory that should have been impossible, but the price had been steep. Dr. Bora worked for 36 hours straight, treating wounded from both sides. The captured Concordat soldiers were terrified, having never experienced defeat. She treated them with the same care as human casualties, and slowly, they began to talk. "In 3,000 years, one alien soldier told her, his translator struggling with the emotion in his voice, the Concordat has never lost a battle. We thought ourselves invincible. We thought our technology made us superior. What changed?" Bora asked gently. "You did. You fought like nothing we've encountered. No honor duels, no formal challenges. Just mathematics and violence and a complete willingness to sacrifice everything. We had energy shields designed to stop energy weapons. We had armor designed to deflect plasma. We had tactics designed for how civilized species fight. The alien laughed bitterly. You threw rocks at us. Rocks moving at relativistic speeds. It never occurred to us that someone would still use kinetic weapons. We abandoned them millennia ago as primitive and inefficient. We forgot that physics doesn't care about technology. A sufficiently fast rock will kill you just as dead as a plasma bolt. Biora recorded every conversation, knowing this information would be valuable. She learned that the galaxy operated on a strict hierarchy based on technological advancement. Species were ranked by their mastery of exotic physics. Energy manipulation, gravity control, dimensional folding. Kinetic weapons were considered crude tools of less advanced civilizations. No one used them. No one defended against them. The entire galactic military doctrine had a massive blind spot, and humanity had just proven it in the most brutal way possible. Ambassador. Giwu prepared her broadcast to the galaxy. Knowing that the Concordat had been transmitting the entire battle on their emergency channels, every advanced civilization had watched humanity, the primitive species, destroy a Concordat fleet. She stood before the cameras, no longer the diplomat seeking peaceful contact. Now she was the voice of a species that had proven it wouldn't bow. People of the galaxy, she began, her voice carrying across light years. Today, Earth defended itself against an ultimatum we could not accept. We did not seek this conflict. We offered peace, cooperation, mutual respect. We were met with demands for submission. The message from Ambassador Jiwoo traveled across the galaxy at the speed of light, carried on every frequency and protocol humanity could access. Within days, responses began flooding back to Earth. Some messages praised humanity's courage. Others warned of terrible retribution. Most simply asked questions that humanity itself was still trying to answer. Merchant Jae-hoon saw opportunity where others saw chaos. He was 42 years old, had made and lost 3 fortunes in the asteroid mining business, and possessed an instinct for profit that bordered on supernatural. 3 weeks after the battle, he sat in a small trading post on Mars, negotiating with Earth's first alien visitor who wasn't a prisoner. The creature before him looked like a floating jellyfish made of crystal. It called itself a trader of the Shimmer Collective, and it had arrived in a small, battered ship that barely survived the journey. "You want to buy our weapons technology?" Jae-hoon said, not bothering to phrase it as a question. Desperately, the trader replied through its translation device. "The Concordat has oppressed my people for 6 generations. We tried rebellion twice. Both times, our energy weapons proved ineffective against their shields. But your kinetic weapons changed the rules," Jae-hoon finished. He leaned back in his chair, considering. "What can you offer in trade?" "Medical technology. We can cure diseases you don't even know are curable. Extend lifespans by 50%. Regenerate damaged organs." Jae-hoon's heart rate increased despite his practiced poker face. His daughter had a degenerative illness that Earth's doctors couldn't treat. But he forced himself to think clearly. "I'll need to consult with Earth government. We can't just sell weapons to anyone who asks." Of course, the trader agreed. "But know this, human. Word is spreading across the galaxy. The Concordat subjects are watching, hoping, waiting to see if Earth will help them, or if you'll become just another oppressor replacing the old one." After the trader left, Jae-hoon sat alone, thinking about the weight of responsibility that had just landed on his shoulders. Earth wasn't just a planet anymore. It was a symbol. Commander Yoonji worked in a very different world. Her office was deep in a secure facility under Seoul, windowless and cold. Filled with encrypted computers and analysis equipment, she was Earth's chief intelligence officer. Right now she was interrogating a Concordat captain. The alien sat across from her, its serpentine body coiled on a specially designed chair. It had agreed to cooperate in exchange for medical treatment for its injured crew. "Tell me about the hierarchy," Yoonji said. The captain's translator made its voice sound tired. "The galaxy is organized by technological advancement. At the top are the Ascended Ones, species who have mastered dimensional physics and exist partially outside normal space. Below them are civilizations like the Concordat, masters of energy manipulation and exotic matter. Then come species with FTL travel but limited exotic physics. At the bottom are pre-FTL primitives and humans. Where do we fit now? The captain made a sound that might have been laughter. Nowhere. You broke the system. You should be at the bottom based on your technology level. But you defeated Concordat forces. That's never happened before. Every species advances the same way. Chemical engines, then fusion, then energy weapons, then exotic physics. You skipped steps. You made primitive technology work against advanced defenses. Yonji leaned forward. Why did you abandon kinetic weapons? Efficiency. Energy weapons seem superior in every way. Unlimited ammunition, instant speed of light attacks, no recoil. Kinetic weapons required carrying mass, had travel time, limited by projectile speed. We all made the same calculations and reached the same conclusion. But the calculations were wrong. Not wrong, the captain corrected. Incomplete. We optimized our defenses for energy weapons because that's what everyone used. We created a vulnerability and never realized it because no one exploited it. Until Yunji filed the information away carefully. Knowledge was power, and Earth needed every advantage. Meanwhile, scientist Dong Heen led a team of 200 researchers studying the captured Concordat ships. The work was painstaking, dangerous, and absolutely thrilling. Every day brought new discoveries that made him feel like a child exploring a candy store. We've cracked the FTL communication system, he announced at the daily briefing. It uses quantum entanglement across specially prepared particle pairs. The math is insane, but we understand the principles now. Dr. Hannah, promoted to head of the Alien Technology Division, reviewed his findings. She had dark circles under her eyes from weeks of minimal sleep, but her mind was as sharp as ever. How long until we can build our own? She asked. 6 months to a year for a basic system. Their technology is elegant, but it's not magic. Just physics we haven't fully explored yet. What about the shields? Dong Hein's expression darkened. That's harder. Their energy shields are incredible against directed energy weapons. But they have fundamental weaknesses against kinetic weapons. The shields can't distinguish between a weapon and a micrometeorite until it's too late. By the time they calculate the threat and strengthen that section, the projectile has already hit. Can we combine our kinetic weapons with their shield technology? We're working on it. Imagine a human ship with Concordat shields and railguns. It would be devastating. 3 alien civilizations sent diplomatic missions to Earth in the weeks following the battle. They arrived quietly, without fanfare. Each one representing species that had suffered under Concordat rule. Ambassador Juwu met with them in a specially built diplomatic complex in Geneva. The first were the Kethrani, an insectoid species whose world had been conquered 200 years ago. Their representative, a being with compound eyes and delicate antennae, spoke through a translator. We want freedom, it said simply. The Concordat takes our resources, our people, our dignity. When we saw what you did to their fleet, we felt hope for the first time in generations. Will you help us? Jiwoo chose her words carefully. Earth wants peace. We don't want to become galactic conquerors replacing the Concordat. We don't ask you to conquer anyone, the Kethrani replied. We ask you to teach us to defend ourselves. Sell us weapons. Share your tactics. Let us fight our own battles. The second species, the crystalline luminae, offered scientific knowledge in exchange for military cooperation. The third, a species of aquatic beings called the deep current, offered mineral wealth from their ocean worlds. Each conversation followed the same pattern. They wanted humanity's help against the Concordat. They offered valuable trade in return. And each time, Jiwoo had to balance Earth's moral responsibility against the danger of getting involved in galactic politics. She consulted with Commander Da-Young, now promoted to general, about the military implications. If we arm the Concordat subjects, we're starting a galactic war, Daejun said bluntly. They won't accept losing their empire without a fight. And if we don't help, we leave these species to suffer under tyranny, Giwoo countered. We became powerful by accident. That gives us responsibility, or it makes us a target. They were both right, and both knew it. The decision ultimately went to the United Earth Council. After 2 weeks of debate, they reached a compromise. Earth would provide defensive technology and tactical training to species seeking independence. But Earth would not send military forces to fight others' wars. It was a careful balance, trying to help without becoming an imperial power themselves. But the Concordat wasn't sitting idle. Deep in their core territories, the War Masters convened for the first time in 3 centuries. These were the military leaders who had conquered a third of the galaxy. They were furious. Their leaders studied every second of the Battle of Terra. Analyzing human tactics with cold precision, they identified 3 key factors in humanity's victory: surprise, massed, kinetic fire, and willingness to sacrifice. "The first factor is gone," one War Master said. "We know about their kinetic weapons now. We can prepare defenses." "Point defense systems," another agreed. "Fast-tracking interceptors. We can shoot down their projectiles before they reach our ships." "What about their willingness to sacrifice? The human who crashed a mining ship into our vessel?" Silence. That was harder to counter. The Concordat fought for empire and resources. Humans had fought for survival and freedom. You couldn't match that kind of desperation with tactics. "We target their allies," a War Master finally said. "The species asking Earth for help. We crush them quickly, before humanity can intervene. Show the galaxy that friendship with humans brings only destruction." The plan was cold, ruthless, and potentially effective. They began assembling a fleet of 90 ships, equipped with new point defense systems specifically designed to counter kinetic weapons. Commander Dash. Yunji's intelligence network caught wind of the preparation. She brought the information to General Daijung's attention. "They're not coming for Earth," she said. "They're going after the Kethrani, the insect species that asked for our help." Daijung stared at the intelligence report. The Concordat was assembling overwhelming force to make an example. If the Kethrani fell, no one else would dare seek Earth's help. "What's our fleet strength?" he asked. 23 ships capable of deep space operations. Most are retrofitted mining vessels and science ships. We have exactly 2 purpose-built warships against 90 Concordat vessels equipped with anti-kinetic defenses. "Yes, sir." Daijung was quiet for a long time. Earth had won 1 battle through surprise and preparation. But the Concordat had adapted. This time would be different. "Call Engineer Heianwu," he finally said. "We need to adapt faster than they can." Heianwu arrived within the hour, looking excited despite the grave news. "I've been working on something," he said. "What if we combined human kinetic weapons with the alien technologies we've captured?" He pulled up designs that made Daijung's eyes widen. Ships equipped with Concordat FTL drives and shields but armed with human railguns. Teleportation technology adapted for tactical combat. New weapons that merged both philosophies. "How long until we can build these?" "The first prototype is ready. I call it the Harmony of Thunder." Daijung looked at the ship design, seeing humanity's pragmatism merged with alien sophistication. It was beautiful and terrifying. "We're going to need more than one," he said. "Ed, I've got teams working around the clock. We can have 5 ready in 3 weeks. The Concordat will reach the Kethrani system in 4 weeks. Heianwu grinned. "Then I guess we'd better work faster." Fleet Admiral Kung Su stood on the bridge of the Harmony of Thunder and felt like he was commanding a ship from a dream. The vessel hummed with power from Concordat energy systems, while railgun batteries lined its hull in configurations no alien would expect. He was 60 years old, had commanded mining operations in the asteroid belt for decades, and never imagined he would lead humanity's first interstellar military expedition. "FTL drive is charging," the navigation officer reported. "Jump in 30 seconds." Kelsu looked at the tactical display showing his small fleet. 23 ships, 5 of them new hybrid designs like his flagship. Against a Concordat armada of 90 vessels? The math was terrible, but humanity had never let bad math stop them before. "All ships, prepare for jump." Next stop, the Kethrani system. "Let's show the galaxy what happens when you threaten Earth's friends." The ships vanished in flashes of blue light. crossing light years in heartbeats, using technology that had been alien to humanity. Just months ago, pilot Sung-hoon sat in the cockpit of his fighter, docked inside the Harmony of Thunder's small hangar. He was young, barely 24, and scared out of his mind. But his hands were steady on the controls because that's what pilots did. They flew, even when terrified. "First combat jump," his co-pilot said nervously. "Think we'll make it?" "We made it through the Battle of Terra," Sung-hoon replied with more confidence than he felt. "We'll make it through this too." The fleet emerged in the Cathroni system to find hell waiting for them. The Concordat armada had arrived early, and they were already bombarding the planet. Plasma lances struck the surface, vaporizing cities. Energy weapons carved scars across continents. "My God," someone whispered over the command channel. Kung Su felt rage building in his chest. This wasn't war. It was genocide. All ships, battle formation. Engage the enemy immediately. Diplomat Hae-won watched the battle unfold from her position aboard a command ship hanging back from the combat zone. She had argued against military intervention, preferring diplomatic solutions. But watching the Concordat murder millions just to send a message, she understood why humanity had to fight. She opened a channel on all frequencies, broadcasting to both the Concordat fleet and anyone listening across the galaxy. Concordat forces. "This is Diplomat Hae-won of United Earth. You are committing genocide against the Cathrani people. Cease fire immediately and withdraw, or face the consequences." The response was dismissive. "Earth has no authority here. These are internal Concordat matters. Your interference will not be tolerated." "Then we're interfering," Hae-won said coldly. "And you'll tolerate it, or join your fleet at Terra in defeat." The Concordat commander made a fatal mistake. He assumed Earth's victory had been a fluke, a one-time surprise that couldn't be repeated. His ships turned to engage the human fleet with confidence. They had prepared for massed kinetic bombardment. Every ship had upgraded point defense systems, able to track and destroy incoming projectiles. They had studied human tactics and built countermeasures. What they hadn't prepared for was humanity's ability to innovate. The first surprise came when 3 human ships simply vanished. They didn't use conventional FTL. They teleported, using captured Concordat technology that no one thought humans could master. They reappeared at point-blank range, inside the Concordat formation. Engineer Heinwu's modifications had made short-range combat teleportation possible. The ships materialized within visual range and immediately opened fire at that distance. Point defense systems couldn't track fast enough. Railgun rounds slammed into Concordat vessels before they could react. 3 ships died in the opening seconds. "Microjump complete," the tactical officer reported aboard the Harmony of Thunder. "Recharging for next jump." Kunsu grinned. "Pick your next target. Let's keep them confused." The Concordat fleet tried to adapt, spreading out to make teleportation attacks harder. But that played into the next phase of humanity's plan. Sung got the launch order. "All fighters, scramble. Target the scattered vessels." 200 fighters poured out of the human fleet's hangar bays. Each one was tiny, barely worth noticing to ships the size of cities. But they were fast, maneuverable, and armed with precision railguns. More importantly, they carried something new. Heinwu's team had cracked the Concordat's teleportation technology and miniaturized it for combat use. "Tiger Squadron, watch this," Sung-hoon said. He activated the experimental teleporter, and his fighter vanished from normal space. He reappeared inside a Concordat ship's shield perimeter, materialized in the blind spot near the engine cluster. His railgun fired point-blank into the reactor housing. The Concordat ship didn't explode. It simply went dark, as its power systems failed catastrophically. "It works," Sung-hoon shouted. "All fighters engage using teleport protocol." The battle descended into chaos. Human ships jumped in and out of combat range, hitting hard and disappearing before a return fire could reach them. Fighters teleported past shields, striking at vulnerable systems. The Concordat's carefully prepared defenses meant nothing when the enemy appeared inside their guard. But the Concordat still had numbers. For every alien ship destroyed, they destroyed human assets. A frigate died when concentrated plasma fire overwhelmed its shields. A squadron of fighters was caught in a gravity well trap and crushed aboard the command ship. Tactical Officer Minho coordinated the battle with cold precision. His mathematical models predicted concordat movements, calculated optimal firing solutions, identified weaknesses in their formation. Admiral enemy command ship identified. Sending coordinates now? Kung Su studied the target. It was the largest vessel in the Concordat fleet, bristling with weapons and protected by layered shields. Taking it out would cripple their coordination. Harmony of Thunder will handle it, he decided. All other ships keep the fleet busy. His hybrid ship was the most advanced vessel humanity had ever built. Concordat shields protected it from energy weapons. Human railguns gave it devastating firepower, and its experimental weapon systems combined both technologies in ways that scared even its own crew. Charging the kinetic lance, the weapons officer reported, this was Haiyan Wu's masterpiece. A railgun that used Concordat energy field technology to accelerate projectiles to 25% light speed. The power requirements were insane. Firing it drained the ship's main reactor completely, but the results were worth it. The kinetic lance fired. A tungsten rod the size of a telephone pole crossed the distance to the Concordat command ship in less than a second. The alien shields held for a microsecond, before physics overwhelmed them. The projectile punched through the command ship from bow to stern, creating a tunnel of destruction that vented atmosphere, destroyed critical systems, and killed the Concordat admiral instantly. The enemy fleet faltered as command and control collapsed. Ships began retreating individually, no longer coordinated, no longer fighting as a unified force. Kyung-Su wanted to press the advantage, destroy them all. But Haewon's voice came over the command channel. Admiral, they're beaten. Let them run. We came to save the Kethrani, not commit genocide ourselves. I hated it, but she was right. Humanity had to be better than the Concordat. All ships, cease fire. Let them go. The surviving Concordat vessels fled to FTL speeds, leaving behind their damaged and destroyed. The human fleet had won again, this time against a prepared enemy with superior numbers. The cost had been high. 7 ships destroyed, 34 fighters lost, over 1,000 casualties. But the Kethrani were saved. Kyung's fleet descended to the planet's surface to assess the damage. Dr. Biora led the medical teams, treating Kethrani survivors pulled from ruined cities. The devastation was horrifying. Millions dead in the bombardment, but billions survived because Earth had intervened. The Kethrani government, what remained of it, met with the human commanders in a makeshift conference center. The insectoid leaders were overwhelmed with gratitude and grief. You saved us, their leader said through the translator. Earth kept its promise. You are true allies. Ambassador Haewon handled the diplomatic aftermath. Within days, 5 more species sent messages asking to join what they were calling the Free Systems Compact, an alliance of civilizations choosing independence over Concordat oppression. Back on Earth, Dr. Hannah reviewed the battle data with scientist Dong Haeon. They had integrated human and alien technology successfully, creating hybrid systems superior to either alone. We've proven something important, Hannah said. The galaxy's assumption that advancement means abandoning older technology was wrong. True progress is synthesis, not replacement. The Concordat abandoned kinetic weapons completely. We kept them and added new capabilities that made us stronger. General Daedrung stood before the United Earth Council, presenting his vision for the future. We can't go back to isolation, he said. The galaxy knows we exist now. Some see us as heroes, others as threats. We need to be strong enough to defend not just Earth, but our values. What are you proposing? The council president asked. Military Academy. Open to humans and aliens alike. Teach integrated warfare doctrine, kinetic weapons, energy weapons, teleportation tactics. The complete spectrum of combat. We share our knowledge, but we also learn from our allies. The council approved the proposal. The Terran Military Academy opened 6 months later with students from 7 species. They learned that warfare wasn't about having the most advanced technology. It was about using every tool available effectively. Lieutenant Sujin became an instructor, teaching fighter tactics to pilots from across the Free Systems Compact.
Ow.
Merchant Jae-hoon built a trading empire connecting Earth with dozens of worlds. Engineer Hyun-woo continued developing hybrid technologies, always pushing the boundaries. One day, Dr. Hannah was examining data from the ancient derelict that started everything. She had been working on it sporadically for months, and finally cracked one of the encrypted data cores. What she found made her hands shake. She called Commander Daejun immediately. "You need to see this." The data core contained navigation logs. The ship had launched from Earth's orbit over 4,000 years ago, part of a colony expedition. But something had gone wrong. They had encountered hostile aliens, fought desperately, and died alone in the dark. "This ship was human," Hannah said quietly. "An ancient colony mission we lost to history." They rediscovered the galaxy, fought with kinetic weapons, because that's all they had, and died protecting their people. Daejung stared at the data, feeling a strange connection across millennia. "We're not the first humans to fight this war. We're just the first to win." The discovery put everything in perspective. Humanity had left Earth before, ventured into the galaxy, and learned hard lessons. Now they were back, armed with centuries of technological development and the wisdom to learn from the past. Construction began on humanity's new generation of colony ships. They were marvels of engineering, combining human railgun arrays with Concordat FTL drives energy shields with teleportation systems. Each ship carried 10,000 colonists and enough firepower to defend a solar system. The first ship, named Remembrance in honor of the ancient derelict, prepared for launch. Captain Taemin, promoted from exploration to colonization, stood on its bridge. "Where are we headed?" his navigator asked. Tae-dash-min smiled. "Everywhere. The galaxy is vast, and humanity has a lot of catching up to do." The ship launched, followed by 20 more. They spread across the galaxy, establishing colonies, making alliances, and sharing the lesson humanity had learned the hard way. Technology advanced when you kept what worked and added what was new. Progress wasn't linear, it was synthesis. Railguns first, teleporters later. Both together, unstoppable, Ambassador Ji-woo gave the keynote address at the first Galactic Council of Free Systems. Representatives from 37 species gathered to establish a new order based on cooperation rather than domination. "We stand here today because of a simple truth," she said. "No species has all the answers." The Concordat thought their advanced technology made them superior. They were wrong. Humanity thought we were primitive because we used kinetic weapons. We were wrong too. The future belongs to those who can learn, adapt, and grow. Who can take the best from every source and create something new. That's what the Free Systems Compact represents. Not human dominance replacing Concordat dominance, but genuine cooperation. The speech was broadcast across the galaxy. Some Concordat loyalists dismissed it as propaganda. But in their core territories, subject species watched and hoped and planned their own rebellions. The galaxy was changing. The old hierarchy based on technological snobbery was crumbling. In its place, something new was growing. General Daejung sat in his office, now decorated with commendations from a dozen species. He was older now, gray in his hair, scars from battles fought, but his eyes were still sharp. A young cadet knocked on his door. She was Kathrani, one of the first aliens to graduate from the Terran Military Academy. "Sir, I wanted to thank you. For saving my world, for teaching us to defend ourselves." Dae-yoon smiled. "Don't thank me. Thank humanity's stubborn refusal to give up on old technology just because someone said it was obsolete. Thank our willingness to learn from everyone, even enemies." "What's next for Earth?" the cadet asked. Daejung looked out his window at the stars. "The same thing that's always been next. We explore. We learn. We defend those who need defending. Push the boundaries of what's possible, and we never ever assume we know everything." The cadet saluted and left. Daejung returned to his work, planning humanity's next steps in a galaxy that would never underestimate them again. Outside his window, ships of a dozen different designs moved through Earth's orbit, Human vessels with railgun arrays, Kathrani fighters with hybrid drives, Luminate crystal ships shimmering with impossible beauty, all of them working together, learning from each other, building something new. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity had taught it with tungsten rods traveling at relativistic speeds. Sometimes the old ways were still the best ways. Sometimes combining old and new created something even better. The story of humanity's rise wasn't over. It was just beginning.